February 10th, 2026 to order. You can join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda are the approval of the school committee meeting minutes for January 27th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes on January 27th, 2026. Second.
Is there any discussion or changes? I didn't see any. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. So that's 402.
Oh, shoot.
Good job. I'm going to take that vote again, so Joan's a part of it. So Joan, we're approving the minutes for January 27th, 2026.
Yeah.
So Erica, do you make the
I
same
make a
motion?
motion, yeah.
And Tara, do you make the same second? And Joan, do you have any edits or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstaining. So it's 502 with Chris and Marcia. Next, we have the public participation portion of the agenda. Is there anybody here for the public participation portion of the agenda, either in the audience, which I don't see any, or online? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports and presentations, and we'll start with the student presentations.
Hello everyone, it's nice to be with you again. I know it's been quite a bit. I'm sorry about the past few times we kind of lost track or something like that. So like I mentioned, it's nice to be with you again. And some of the previous and current events that have been going on at the Hudson High are on January 30th, the Sports Summit field trip had a deadline for their sign up. There also was an application for senior internship, the senior internship program, which also had their deadline on the same day. So I hope everyone was able to get those paperworks in, and good luck to all. So throughout February, we've been having a lot of testing with various things. Grade 8 has had their NAEP testing, which is similar to a report card for different schools around the country. And good luck to those students testing, and I hope you all enjoying your scores and having fun with it. Additionally, there have been some sealed by literacy testing going on with grade 12, I think, is taking it or has been taking it. I know Spanish took it and Portuguese is taking it. So again, good luck to all. Some of the upcoming events are tomorrow there's a half a day. Maybe with Dr. Regan we have a well, we'll see. In all seriousness, I hope all of you drive home safe and are staying warm. On February 16th through the 20th, there will be February vacation, and we return to school on February 23rd. So I hope all of you have a great vacation and enjoy the weather.
All right, so kicking off the sports events, tonight boys varsity basketball is playing against Tingsboro at home, and girls varsity basketball is playing away at Tingsboro right now. Girls hockey remains undefeated, and they're now up to 17-0, an incredible feat. They're playing for Algonquin right now, and Hudson is representing with 4 players, I believe. This Thursday, indoor track is going to states, and a special congratulations to those who made it. Jason Blake, Harrison Mello, Dante Denizon from Aspet, Julia Kleinitz, and the girls 4x8. Congratulations to everyone who's going there. And tomorrow there will be a boys varsity hockey game against Grafton at Grafton. So some things that Hudson High School is up to right now. Recently we had the class of 2031 Hawk Night, where a lot of students who are currently in 7th grade coming up to 8th grade and into the high school, they were able to walk around and check out all the kinds of different clubs and extracurriculars that Hudson High has to offer. There's an athletics table, every club was represented, and there was a mix of both faculty and student representation, so there were a lot of different really good perspectives. The Washington DC trip is upcoming. So there's a mandatory meeting on March 3rd for those who are interested, and 8th and 9th graders are allowed to go, so it's expanding. And just a heads up from Ms. Millette, the library is open to all students, and the library is a good resource for after-school hours to get some homework done, doing some research for a project. If you want to have a quiet space at lunch, you can stay there, and always you can get books and read. And currently for student council initiatives, right now the student council is running a fundraiser for Valentine's Day called Kiss Your Crush, where for $1 students can send a bag of Hershey's Kisses to somebody in F block on Valentine's Day to help make their day better. And March Madness, the tournament that we've been talking about a lot, is starting to take form, and we are starting to make motion on that. So currently we got the skeleton down, and with a few more approvals and working that out more with the subcommittee, that'll be fully fleshed out and ready to roll for March.
Yeah, and as for the concerns of the student body, we don't have any at the moment. So again, thank you.
Can we go back to the Washington DC trip?
Yeah.
When is that? Is that in the fall?
I think so, yeah.
And it's for 9th and 10th graders?
Eighth.
So this year's 8th and 9th graders will be 9th and 10th next year.
That's my understanding.
Is that correct?
Well, no, it's for everybody, right? They're just eligible.
No, it's just 2 grades.
2 grades.
Oh, good.
I think
Sorry,
every
struggling
other.
with putting my daughter on a plane for that trip, but
Oh.
I'll save that for my own present.
So if a 9th grader chooses to go as a 9th grader, they could do that, or they could wait for the 10th grade year.
Run every other year.
It's run every other year. So if a 9th grader wanted to go, they would need to go. All right, thank you for the report.
Awesome, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see.
Thank you as well, thank you.
Next, we have the report of the superintendent with district updates and enrollment updates.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you. Just a few items to share. Good news. As I put in the packet, we held Hawk Night here on the 29th of January. That was designed to bring in future 8th grade families and students to talk to them about the curriculum and then extracurricular offerings that we have here. We tried a different, they tried a different format this year, the high school leadership team, which I think was a pretty big success. So we had more folks attend this year than we've seen in the last 2 years, which was really great to see. And it was a freezing cold night. So we think maybe if it was 10 or 15 degrees warmer out, we might have even needed a few more folks here as well. You recall that I shared with you that we put together this 4-page glossy that showed highlights about Hudson High. We did a direct mailing to all 7th grade families with that glossy with a little invite stapled to the inside. And we also did a direct mailing to Hudson students that are in 7th grade and 8th grade at AMSA with the same glossy, just welcoming them to come and just learn about Hudson High. We didn't ask where they were coming from when they came in the door, but we know just through conversations that there were at least, I'm saying 3 families that minimally that came from AMSA. And I know at least one of them walked out deciding to enroll back in Hudson. Matter of fact, I think that may have already done so. So it's great to just, show people what we have to offer. That's what it was all about. The images on the screen are just some of the things that were going on in the bottom right. That's where everyone started in the mini theater, where the principal and her team, Dr. Becky, shared information about the high school and what courses 8th graders typically take. And then the other 3 photos are just a mix of students and adults that were in the cafeteria. So everyone then left Dr. Becky's presentation, and then they went out and there were tables with kids and adults talking about clubs and different academic pathways. Up in the top left, you can see Linda Chilton, who is the teacher in our HUD-TV studio. She had a setup so that kids could sit and pretend like they were interviewing each other and see what it's like to be on camera and all that. So a real fun night. We had some of our latest athletic trophies that were on display with some of our student athletes. So really positive evening, and we're looking to build upon that going forward in the future. Just some other great activities that have been going around. Forest Ave held their fun run last week. This is an annual event that the home and school puts on. I'm hearing that they might have raised close to 30 or over $30,000. Yeah, so pretty amazing fundraiser that they do. Our elementary schools
do these in different ways for us. So there's the winter indoors, which I went last year. I wasn't able to make it this year, and there's a lot of energy in that gym with lights and booming music, and there's some of our friends from third grade that are there with Principal Champney in their fun run shirts. On the bottom is our elementary choral concert that I was able to attend last Thursday night. We held it at the Quinn Middle School. It was the right size venue. Over 80 students in the chorus in fourth grade across Mulready, Forest, and Farley. So that's a photo of our student musicians putting on a concert of seasonal winter music. And then up on the left, you see a student from Hudson High who's working with our librarian and another student. They're another staff member. Students from our life skills program are learning skills in the library, real life skills. So it's great that there's a collaboration happening there right here at the high school. So just all positive events that are going on around the district. You've heard Julian mention the senior internship program. I'm not sharing this tonight because the deadline is approaching. It's just passed. But it's just to make sure that the school committee knows and people that do watch us at home realize that we do have this program at Hudson High. In a nutshell, if you apply and you're accepted, then you end your classes at the end of third quarter, with the exception of a few. If you have an AP class or a certain project lead the way class, you need to still attend that class for the rest of the year. But the rest of your classes end in quarter three, and then you go out and you work in an internship in a field of your choice. So there's a whole packet that goes together that kids need to fill out to apply and to be accepted. It's a program we've been trying to grow for many years. It actually began way back when I was principal at the high school. It was its first year, I believe. So it's great to see it's still going. But it's a good opportunity for kids, whether they're college bound or they're looking to get into the workforce, to give some chance to give a certain career a try in the last 8 weeks or so. When we all know many of our seniors are sort of checked out, so it gives them something sort of new and exciting to do for the last few weeks of school. And just wanted to note that the high school received two pretty decent grants, $25,000 early college planning grant from the state that will allow us to get Part B of the designation process done. We're really looking forward to that, and we'll give you more updates in the spring once we are closer to that process being finished. But we're inching our way towards being designated by the state as an early college high school program. And then they received a $3,200 financial education grant that they're going to use to run a financial education fair here at the school in spring, is my understanding of that. So all good stuff. And just moving on to enrollment, I did give you information in your packet. Again, our enrollment is extremely stable, which is good. We're not seeing much churn at all, in or out. And so the story is not really an exciting one to tell, but just to kind of keep our eyes on it. Projected actual our elementaries are 26 students below what we projected we would be. In our middle and high school, just slightly above at 17 and 12. So really hitting our targets in terms of our projections. And then the next couple slides, which are also in my memo to you, just show sort of the distribution of students by grade level and the changes by school. And again, you can see the stability really month to month, no change at Farley for overall enrollment. You might have had a student in one grade and out in another, but the ultimate enrollment hasn't changed. And then with our other two elementaries, just seeing an increase of one student each from month to month. Again, at the Quinn, just one more than was last month in the high school, with a slight decrease. So my understanding is that the high school, they're catching up on some withdrawals that were happening back in the winter the fall into the winter that just hadn't been entered officially into Aspen. So that number is a little higher month to month than it usually is, where it's a 6 student decline, and I think that's what that's connected to. So I include these just so you have them and you can see sort of where we are projected actual by grade. I won't do that, but they're in your packet for you to view. See, sitting. This is our month-to-month change by type. So you can see as of January 31st, the January numbers show that we had 14 students enroll and 11 students withdraw in the month of January. And tracking that against where we were last year. This is an interesting number if you see our enrollments. At this point last year, the January 31st, 2025, we had 141 students that enrolled since the beginning of the year, and this year is 78. And I think a lot of that has to do with what we're seeing with immigration. We don't see families immigrating to the U.S., or at least to this region, as much as in the past, so that our enrollments are down slightly there. And then our withdrawals, same, down, which is a good thing. At this time last year, we had 284 students who had withdrawn since the beginning of the year, and this year just 202. And I think a big factor in that difference is that you can see last year we had 57 go to AMSA and only 13 this year. So that takes a chunk of that difference away. So we'd be tracking a little bit closer, I think, if we didn't.
When do we find out what our AMSA cap is for this coming year?
We should be finding out soon. It's usually February timeframe, so
Should we just let us know as soon as we get that number?
we'll find out. And this pie chart just shows the type, how kids that are, what percentage of them are leaving to go to public school versus private versus state. Our dropout number is just 1% of withdrawals this year. I just track those. So that's 202 withdrawals opening through 130, 126. That's what this pie chart represents. There's questions about.
Right. I have a random question. Sure. It's related to enrollment, but I got a question this week. If we, the Hudson family, they move to Marlboro, but they want to stay in Hudson, have they considered school choice at that point? They still have their spot. Is that correct?
Yeah, usually that's the case. The only time, and I say usually because the only time we've not honored that is if we've got a grade level that's over enrolled, and that grade level did not have school choice seats to begin with.
Okay.
So there are some rare instances where we don't have that situation going on right now. If there is a grade level that's oversubscribed, and the family moves, we may not be able to honor the school choice, but we typically try if the student's been in Hudson and they move. Yeah, to keep them. Even if the family just wants to stay for the rest of the year, we try and honor that, so we're not moving them out.
But more times than not,
It's to say, yeah, we take that as a school choice. Yeah.
Okay.
And we just ask, I'm glad you bring it up actually, because some families don't tell us because they're afraid they're going to have to move. Reality is, like I said, most of the time it's not the case. So it's beneficial to us if you tell us and you want to stay, because then the district benefits from school choice enrollment.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage families to be upfront with us so that we can make sure that that's all on board. So, sure.
Thank you.
Quick question, and by the way, thank you for the year-over-year comparison, that's really helpful. The withdrawal homeschool, is that around its normal, I can't remember what it was.
I can't see that, can I?
If you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's a few fewer, yeah.
Okay, pretty much in every category, it looks like,
Yeah.
everything's just fewer.
Yeah, a little bit fewer, yeah.
Okay. So next on the agenda are subcommittee reports. The Student Advisory Subcommittee is meeting this Friday. The Superintendent's Evaluation Subcommittee doesn't have a scheduled meeting, but I have sent out an email to the chair of that committee to keep an eye on dates, because we just need to line up our dates going forward. There aren't as many meetings as you might think before May, but we'll know in March regarding the election. So if there's no opposition, which there presently isn't, then we'll have the same committee, and we won't have to be as stringent with those dates. And Brian, can you just give us an update on the budget subcommittee, if we are going to be meeting again? Because I know everything's in flux with the town and how we're meeting with the town, so that affects our second budget subcommittee meeting. So we were talking about that recently. Can you just explain that to the rest of the committee?
Yeah, so a couple things have happened. We only have one meeting in February, and sometimes we have two, we just have one. And our first meeting with the select board around the general budget is the Monday after vacation. So we didn't have time to get another budget subcommittee in, so we put it on the full school committee agenda, which is essentially the same thing as all of you are on the budget subcommittee. the thinking is that normally we have a month between select board presentations. I'm not sure why we go back a second time, to be honest with you, with the only department that does, but we do. So this time they didn't give us a month, they gave us 2 weeks. So I'm trying to work with Tom Gregory, I just haven't been able to. If we can move the second meeting to the end of March instead of the beginning of March, which would give us a full month in between the 2 select board meetings. And it would allow us to have the full budget book ready to distribute to the select board before that second meeting. They're essentially voting on Tom's number anyway, so it's not, sometimes they have questions. On the 9th, when we're scheduled to go for our second meeting with them, we will not have the budget book ready. So
Why would it make sense that we'd be there without a budget?
yeah, I don't know if it was their decision or if it was just how the office scheduled us, not realizing the month. So I'm trying, the bottom line is if I can get that meeting pushed to the end of March, then we'll have time to add only an off Tuesday, right, to the easiest, add a budget sub in between. So then we'd have 3 meetings in March essentially as a committee to talk about budget. We have the 2 school committee meetings, which will be on the agenda, and the budget sub, followed by, or right around the second select board meeting, and then the school committee can do a vote on the budget at its first meeting in April, which would be fairly timely from what we've seen in the past. If you felt ready, you could vote the second March meeting. It's all going to depend on where the budget sets. So I will try and settle that with him this week, so we know. We can, I think would be the 23rd. I think might be there in a second.
And Brian, the director of facilities, Erica, and I were at the select board meeting last night. It was a long meeting. We were last on the agenda. And the select board voted to approve the placement of the debt exclusion for the roof repair slash replacement at the high school and repair at Farley onto the town meeting warrant, which will then end up on the ballot. So just to be clear about that, because there has been some discussion on social media, this is nothing out of the ordinary. With any large building in town, you do capital improvements, most likely through that exclusion. It has nothing to do with the override that is passed. It's not the override, it's strictly for operational. We have the largest building in town, probably the high school is the largest building in town, I would think, correct? Which is the bulk of the money needed to repair this roof. So it's a debt exclusion, which is the normal process to do major capital improvements. And we haven't had one in a while, school related for a debt exclusion. I just wanted to clarify that.
And I just want to apologize because I was under the impression that we were doing that presentation on the 23rd when we were there. And
we should have
totally missed that they expected us to come.
So every other department presented last night and presented on their capital plan. So we can ask them next year if we have capital improvements that would need to be on there to do it the same night as we're on for our budget, because it doesn't make sense to sit there for 3 hours.
But I luckily caught it yesterday because we would have not been at the meeting. So apologies. I know. Thank you, Erica. You came and battled through for a little while there. It was a long meeting. But we were able to, with Chris and Dave and I was able to sort of frame the debt exclusion as a collaborative conversation from Tom's, with Tom, and then he supported it. And actually, he did follow up by saying he thinks it's a good decision for the town to go in this direction. I'm not surprised that they did balk at it, because I know that it's sort of the same idea as the override, so now go before the taxpayers make a decision on whether or not it's improved or not. It does give us, green light to start getting things in order in case it does get approved. We're ready to go.
And I know Tom also said last night that he's going to start to pull specific numbers so the residents have an idea of what the tax increase will be and how long of a period that will be, which is going to be really important, because I know you just said that it'll go to ballot, but before it goes to ballot, it has to pass by a vote of 2/3 at town meeting. So the more we can get that information out to people so they have the accurate information to make the decision that's right for them is going to be really important.
I also appreciated how you clarified that it was separate from the override and how you made that really clear. So thank you. I think we can continue doing that.
I think the messaging piece might be not easier, but in some ways, yeah, simpler, because with the override, there's so many moving pieces that we just really, it's hard to kind of get it to focus really early. I think with these roof projects, we can get, succinct materials out that don't have to change once we get this information from Tom's office too. That just show it all in a neat, ideally like front, back, and this is a document that we can use wherever, whenever we need to, just so that residents are aware of why we're asking for it and what it would cost and what's, impact.
I think the message that needs to go out is framed in a way that, the roofs are at the end of their life, and delaying it will only do two things. It will cost more. Excuse me. It will cost more, and you run the risk of causing damage to the structure itself if you don't repair. So I think that's an important message that we distributed to the community.
One more thing on that, just that, it's kind of what we said, but the debt exclusions, they aren't permanent. They come off after time. And so the other thing that you mentioned last night was he was going to see if there was other debt exclusions that were up to run out.
Oh, yes.
Which is
Something along the last about, yeah.
I appreciated that, like Lauren asked that question.
So these roofs will be 10, maybe 15-year debt exclusions. They're deciding on bonds. Just as an example, so Hudson High recently, in the last year or two, came off the tax bills completely. And the building is paid for. Quinn is in year 12 or 13 of 20, and I believe that each year the amount gets lower and lower. So any buildings that we do have out there that are still under debt exclusion are getting lower and lower each year. So the impact of adding a new one on is lessened by the fact that the other ones are going down a little bit. Obviously the DPW is brand new. Quinn is in year 13 of 20. I don't think what else there might be out there. The police station. Police station is probably nearing.
Maybe the fire station might still be out there, but that was after the high school.
The fire station might be almost at its end. I don't know, I've lost track of which years the buildings were built, but, but that would be good information to have. Because I think people might be surprised by the difference in the tax bill when taking all that into account. Okay, next we have matters for discussion, old business, the 2025-2026 district improvement plan mid-year update.
So you hear my voice more than usual. And it's a sign of the fact that we eliminated the assistant superintendent position last year, which is, I haven't talked about it much, but it really has had an impact on sort of how we do business in the district. There was a conversation last night about the fire department struggling with only one deputy chief. And it was just making me think, and I don't disagree. I think that, based on what the fire chief was saying last night, seems like a very necessary position, but it got me thinking about how our deputy chief position was eliminated, and what that's done is it's really distributed a lot of additional work onto curriculum directors who have done an incredible job stepping up, but really no adjustment to salary or anything like that. They're just doing more work. And so normally Kathy Provost in the last 2 years would have been here with me. But I didn't want to bring a team of 12 people to go over this, so you're going to suffer through some of my explanation tonight. But I'll move through the slides quickly and just give you the opportunity to ask questions. This is just a mid-year progress update, where we want to make sure that you sort of get a sense that things are moving along nicely. And because of that curriculum team, I think we put together a much more realistic and meaningful plan, and the progress that's been made this year has been I think head and shoulders above what we had seen in the last couple of years with our previous district improvements. So I won't go over each bullet, but just to remind people that we have 3 areas that we have goals around. Number 1 is built on our value that we create opportunities to engage with every student and every family, with the strategic objective of strengthening daily connections with students and families from every background. And we have strategic priority 1.1, which is establishing expectations and protocols around communicating with families. Just some of the highlights that we are currently phasing in a software called Talking Points, which is will allow our educators to communicate with families without having to use any personal devices. It also translates very effectively. We had teachers that had their own plans for Talking Points, and they were buying it on their own. We're going to pull it all in under a district plan. Actually, if you had an individual one, Talking Points will pull that into the district for you, so you don't have to do anything. It's going to take that teacher's account and move it over into the district account. And that also takes it off of a teacher's private phone and allows us to archive, which we should be doing with all of our communications by law, so it allows us to archive communications. We continue to work on sending out our regular communications through principals' offices, newsletters, weekly announcements, and whatnot. We worked a lot this fall around adjusting our messaging around and making consistent our messaging around attendance. Every school had a different attendance letter that was being sent home if a student reached a certain number of absences. We centralized those messages so that the letters were the same with a few modifications based on level, right? The high school has language in there about potentially not being eligible for extracurriculars. That doesn't exist in middle or high, middle or elementary necessarily. So we standardized those letters and really sort of increased the expectations around making sure that they were sent out and what the messaging should be for families and when you should be bringing them in to engage with them one-on-one around attendance. We know that that's one of the biggest indicators of school success is school attendance. And we entered using a new database that is helping us track that. So it's really been much more effective that way. At the secondary level, we've had beginning of the year, middle of the year meetings with students to talk about expectations, and they've been doing the same with their educators. They've been talking about sort of communication, educators, communication with families and students towards progress in coursework. I was mixing that up with the goal that you're going to see in just a minute. So they've been working hard to make sure, again, that teachers are reaching out to families and students are struggling, not just when they get the report card and they see that they have a grade that's concerning, trying to be proactive and connected with families. In the same area, we have just a second strategic priority, which is to establish consistent district-wide policies and practices that promote student well-being and focus social emotional skill building on targeted areas for growth. We've administered the Panorama Survey through students in grades 3 to 12. You've heard us talk about Open Architects. That's a database, data warehouse software that we started using this year. We're working to import our Panorama Survey data into Open Architects. The high school is already using some information from Panorama to help design their topics and activities on their community block days. Principals and directors are working to embed the district's EEI. I should have had the graphic in place, but we picked 5 areas that we believe should be focus areas for effective instruction in the district. Call that our EEI graphic. And we're working to work that into the evaluation process so that as we're going into classrooms and we're meeting with teachers about goals and we're doing formatives and summatives, we're trying to focus on those elements of instruction that we think are the most high impact. Responsive classroom is an approach that you may have heard if you have elementary age kids. We use it in Hudson. It's a classroom management approach, classroom community building approach that we're trying to institute at the middle level as well. There's been some professional development at Quinn for that. And at the secondary level, this is what I was talking about earlier, that we've had multiple meetings with students around behavioral expectations and community expectations within our buildings and what it means to be a student at the high school and at Quinn Middle School. Strategic objective 2 is really where the meat and potatoes are. This is about instruction, mostly, and data. This is built on our value that we have high expectations for the growth and achievement of all learners, children, and adults. And the first priority under this value is to systematize data-driven literacy instruction through consistent routines for collecting, analyzing, and responding to student learning data to accelerate literacy growth for all. So coming up in either the second March meeting or the first April meeting, I don't have the exact dates in front of me, which one we've assigned. We have a big presentation coming up to show you some of the data work that we've been doing this year, which is more than I've seen in a long time in this district. It's very exciting. So at the elementary level, they've been regular data meetings to look at baseline and progress monitoring. Reading data meetings happening now, the second round, this is going on this month. And they are now basing small group instruction on that data. So they have a what I need block at the elementary schools, and they're really looking at data-driven, which I think is hugely important for student growth. At the middle school, we now use the MAP assessment as measures of academic progress in math and literacy. That's new this year. They're using that to gather baseline, mid-year, and end-of-year data for 6th and 7th grade students in math and ELA. And similarly, they're using that data to help schedule kids in WIN placements. Again, WIN is a great block, but there was some feedback that kids were being placed there for reasons based on student need, but the rest not. So they're really honing in on the information they're getting from this MAP assessment to decide where kids should be during the WIN block so that they're getting the extra instructional support that they need. 2.2 is exactly the same, except it's focusing on mathematics instruction. So I won't go over where we are February 2026. It's largely the same, but we put two separate goals because we want to try and track what we're doing for ELA and for math separately, especially with benchmark advance coming up for ELA. So skipping ahead to 2.3, which is to ensure effective and consistent implementation of the newly adopted benchmark advanced curriculum to enhance instructional quality and student learning outcomes across grades K-5. The elementary level, the implementation is well in progress. And I don't know if we've made it clear, but not only are we monitoring this at the district level, because it was a large state grant, it's being monitored by the Department of Education through a consultant that they've hired, the New Teacher Project, TNTP. So they are involved with regular meetings. They come, they observe classrooms, they help us. We have a steering committee of teachers and school leaders that work with TNTP just to make sure that the implementation is going smoothly. And our relationship with them has been a little more positive than negative this year, which is great. There have been some mixed reviews about what it's like sometimes working with these consultants. This has worked out well for us. We've had 3 targeted benchmark advanced professional development sessions so far. After the sessions, our coaches and support staff to make sure that they're able to continue with that implementation after the PD happens. And I mentioned that TNTP is conducting walkthroughs along with our building administrators. Some schools actually have created some pretty detailed pacing calendars, not to sort of keep our thumb on teachers necessarily, but to make sure that we're seeing when we're implementing a new curriculum that everybody is generally in the same place, or is somebody struggling to keep up and why, and can we provide them with more support? Without that pacing calendar, we may not be able to sort of monitor that. At the grade 5 level, I think what's important to note is that Benchmark Advanced needs 2 periods of ELA a day. We did not have that in the schedule for this year, and that's being worked on. And we're going to have a presentation at the March 3rd meeting about the dual language rollout, but we'll also talk a little bit about the ELA adjustment for grade 5 next year. So our current 4th graders who are getting Benchmark Advance with the amount of minutes they need in 4th grade, next year will receive the amount of minutes they need in 5th grade to continue with Benchmark Advance as 5th graders. So more to come on that one. 2.4 is to develop and refine feedback systems to foster culture of growth district-wide. Here we have I talked a little bit about the EEI and our eval system. So we also note here that we're doing a lot of work to cross-reference the Mass eval standards with our elements of effective instruction so that educators can see the connection between the two. We have talked a lot about the elements of effective instruction through department meeting agendas and decisions around professional development. And now we're, as I said, we're referencing EI when we're doing observations and discussing practices and routine with education. 2.5 is to expand district-wide opportunities for students to develop bilingualism and biliteracy. The main focus of this particular priority is the dual language expansion up to grade 5 at Quinn. There have been a series of events that have happened. We have a steering committee that meets every other week. Principal Tim Frazier has done an excellent job embracing this rollout and really being transparent and open with staff around some of their concerns about the unknown. We've already made some decisions around the program design. This is all going to come to you, by the way, at your next meeting. Program designs, structures around staffing. We're working still around the curriculum design and what it might look like for students that have additional needs like IEPs or 504s or ELL services. And there are 2 steering committees of Quinn educators that are created, and they're meeting monthly. And this is not just about DL, although that's one of the pieces. It's also about the 5th grade remodel with benchmark coming up. One of them is focusing purely from the curriculum angle, and the other is around systems, which would be like scheduling and what student supports might look like. So Tim Frazier's doing a good job facilitating those 2 groups as well. We are planning an information night for rising 5th graders for the spring, specific to DL. We have a school committee presentation scheduled for March 3rd, and we're working on a professional development plan for staff right now. Not just in the DL program, but we want to welcome anybody that wants to learn more about dual language education. And expanding the DL PAC, which is the Dual Language Parent Advisory Council, to incorporate Quinn families next year. And then our last 2 are under strategic objective 3, which is focusing on our value of we uplift and celebrate everyone in our community. 3.1 is to fully develop a K-12 vision for multidimensional learners that we inspire to grow in Hudson. This one really focuses around the portrait of a learner, which again, we'll bring more information in the spring when it's a little more solidified. We have a task force that's been created. I've been going to their monthly meetings whenever I can. I've been to, I think, 3 of them this year. Todd Wallingford is leading this effort, and there are administrators and teachers that are volunteering from all levels to be on this committee. They've developed 6 core competencies, and they're in the process of articulating related skills to each competency. There's been some professional development led by task force members at each school. And going forward, now we're going to be sharing those competencies with staff to gather feedback, and actually using a community block at the high school to get feedback from students as well. And then a small group from the task force is going to go to a day 2 of a PD session that they attended back in the fall down in Connecticut, which is regional schools that are all trying to develop portraits of a learner. So more to come on that. I'll be excited to show you what we've got when we get to probably June. And then finally, 3.2 is to expand and publicize opportunities across the district for students to grow and lead within and beyond the curriculum. Just a couple examples here. We've expanded the number of community action project courses at the high school. Some of them here are on your document: Spanish Heritage 3, Journalism, Advanced English Language Development. You can see a specific example that the Advanced ELD CAP project will give us an opportunity to have students fly down to elementary schools to establish reading buddies in a DL classroom. So these will be native speakers going down of, say, Spanish or Portuguese, going down to work with students who are also native Spanish or Portuguese speakers. I mentioned the senior internship program as kicked off again this year. And then we noted in there about the glossy that we put together to help promote what we do at Hudson High. We have a new program at the high school where, and this actually came out of a civics action project that was developed by students, which is kind of cool. We have high school students going to elementary schools to read to first graders who are finding difficulties with reading this winter and spring. And speaking of that, if you look out in the parking lot, our new activity bus arrived Friday, I think, last week. I don't think it's registered yet, but it's sitting out there pretty, probably piled up in snow right now. But once that's ready to go, like this is the kind of thing that we can use that vehicle for during the day to help our older students get down to work with our younger students.
Behind the large snowbank.
Yeah.
If you look closely, it's there.
Is it white?
It is white, yeah,
So
blends
it's
right in,
right.
yeah. And then we have the early college grant that I mentioned. So, sorry to put you to sleep, but this is just, wanted to make sure that we touch base on this document. When I talk to you about it again in May or June, I will likely have a group here that can maybe add some color to it, but I just wanted to share with you where we were. I'm happy to answer any questions people have.
This isn't really a question, more just something I want to flag for us, and we've talked a little bit, and I've talked to Todd about it, but for strategic priority 2.3, where we're talking about the implementation of benchmark specifically for the 5th grade students, I just want to flag that there are some nuances with this current 5th grade class because they don't have access to the 2 90-minute blocks that are required. And I know that we're looking at assessment data and comparing this 5th grade class to previous 5th grade classes, and everything seems to be pretty equal as of now. But it's concerning to me as a 5th grade parent because this is also the first year that these students are seeing letter grades. And a lot of the grades in English are weighted very heavily on assessments. So they're taking benchmark assessments for the first time while teachers are learning to implement them with 120 minutes less of instructional time for it. And that's counting as 50% of their grade in some classes. And so I do think that some of those things are not captured here because we didn't know that they were potentially going to be some of those nuances that impact this. So I'm looking forward to seeing the data on that, but I do think that for specifically this 5th grade class, we need to give some leeway to teachers to maybe weight participation or things like that a little bit heavier than assessments, so this is a big learning curve. And Todd, I don't want to speak for him, but he had some great feedback on how sometimes participation can be very subjective, and so maybe that's not the answer, which I thought was a really important point. But I do want to pay attention to that.
Thank you for raising that, and let's bring that back up when I have Judy and Todd come in to give a benchmark update, which is scheduled. And I have presentations the next 3 meetings. I'm just forgetting which. I know the dual language one is the 3rd. I don't know if the data or the benchmark is the 7th or the 2nd meeting in March, but I think with them in the room, it would probably be a fruitful discussion just to make sure that that's monitored. I was at Quinn today, and I was in. I'm always impressed to see what's happening in an ELA classroom. So I was in one 5th grade ELA classroom today, just as I am when I'm at the elementary schools. We're seeing kids do things with reading and writing that were just not happening for the previous program. And so that exposure, that kind of work and that level of expectation, I think is just huge. And as tired as teachers are, because this is really our lift for them, heavy lift for them, they're also seeing changes in student outcomes. But one of the things we've been thinking about since the beginning of this rollout is ideally you're going to do it 1 grade at a time, you're going to build it up. But we felt like what we had in place was so substandard that just even if a 5th grader got 1 year and it was only half of the time, it was still better than the previous approach. And a 4th grader getting it for 2 years was better than giving them another year of Lucy Hawkins. So maybe I should have said the name of the previous program. So, but yeah, you're right. Like that rollout does have a different impact at different grade levels because of the amount of time we're getting. It's really going to be our K1s that are going to have the best, impact by this new program because they're getting it so young.
Along a similar line, are we concerned about the existing 5th graders being prepared appropriately for 6th grade when they switch off from benchmark?
Yeah, so because at the middle school, and again, we'll let Todd sort of speak to this, but the ELA curriculum is sort of homegrown at the middle school, minus now benchmark, right? So we have and I say that because we have the flexibility to make sure that we're using the data in front of us on those students to make sure that we're making adjustments in grade 6 if there's something that needs to be adjusted for whatever reason. So I think that's a plus of having a homegrown curriculum, among other things, that we have the ability to be flexible as long as we're staying within the standards, which we are. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to mention one thing that's not as important. invert anything, but the talking points is, I appreciate all wanting to go on the same platform and the, oh my gosh, the English to Spanish, which is like an amazing, thank you, translation is amazing. Some of the teachers are using it now and I'm finding it super complicated to use.
Oh, okay.
I get very lost in it. So I don't know to create more buy-in, if it was a little bit easier to use. I don't know if anyone else here that has.
I don't think it's probably because teachers are still using their own. I have 6 different talking points things right now, and there's also, they just did a recent update, which has not synced up to my phone, so it's much more complicated now than it was before. Usually it's very user-friendly. I don't know what's going on right now.
This is not.
I think it's an
Like I
update.
got a message, I'm afraid to read it, because I'm like, I'm never gonna find it, I don't know who it came from.
Yeah, it's coming in now, not through the app, through like text messages to me from like 3 different teachers. But
Okay.
that's not how it typically is. It's usually like
Okay,
very
this is my
user-friendly, wonderful.
first year using it, and I haven't found it
Okay.
user-friendly since the beginning of the year, so just something to keep in
Oh,
mind.
that's good to know, because as we roll it out too, there may be information we can send out to families too, to make sure, like, if there's something on your end that we can help you make sure this, that's set up right and it's working.
Sure, yeah.
So that's the first I've heard of that, but it's important for us to know. But we want it to be the opposite, that people are feeling like it's useful for you. Yeah, okay. I made note of that, so
Thank
we'll, as we, the company's been really good to work with, so they've been, really great at providing us materials. Our focus now has been to make sure teachers have what they need to, but you make a good point to make sure the users on the other side have what they need to
Cool,
access
thank you.
it to.
Any other questions? So next is the superintendent schools mid-year update.
I'm so sorry. Again, when you're done with this. All right, there's some overlap here, so I will be as brief as I can be again and let you ask questions if you have them. So you approved 5 goals for me for this year for back in October. So I'll just give you sort of an update as to where I see I'm sitting. It's a little more than halfway, obviously, through the process, but this is of the time last year that I gave you the update as well. So goal number 1 was focusing around mentoring our 3 new principals. I feel that as of February 10th, I'm on target to achieve the key action steps that I identified for this goal. I have a 2-time-a-month school visit schedule where I'm meeting with them individually, also walking around and visiting classrooms with them. I was at the middle school today. I got a chance to sit with Principal Frazier for 40 minutes, and then we spent time in the 5th grade and 7th grade wing. And the nice thing about that is as I go into a classroom, we kind of engage with kids, we see what's going on, then we pop out and we're able to have a conversation about what we saw together. And it gives me a chance to sort of gauge where that principal is instructionally at their building. So it's a real good use of time, in addition to allowing me to be around kids and get some visibility. Students. I had one student today that said, "I saw you 3 times this week." I'm not sure that's possible. It's only Tuesday and I was only at Quinn once, but I'll take it if that's what he thinks he did. But, so it's always good. They are each working with a mentor who we have hired through a third-party agency. Those meetings are going well according to the principals. I meet with the mentors once a quarter. They don't share any sort of intimate details about what they're working on, but just sort of gauge for me how I feel like things are going. Is there anything that I think they could support the principals more with? One of the other things they decided to do, which I think is really cool, and the principals are liking this, according to what they're telling me anyway, that they meet with their mentors individually once a month, and then they meet as a cohort with the 3 mentors once a month. So the 3 new principals are developing a relationship as 3 new administrators in the district with these mentors and hearing problems of practice from other building levels, some of which they're dealing with as well. So it's been going. So we did the DISC assessment back in October. This is a personal preferences and tendencies assessment, and we had the new principals and their assistants there, along with our new director of student services, Elise Budney, and I participated as well. It was a great exercise just to kind of give them a chance to see like what their leadership and personality style is in relation to their assistants. One takeaway I had from that is, you get assigned sort of in a quadrant And the people that I've hired that were in the room are all in the same area. So I have a type, I guess, that I said that who I'd like to hire, but that I guess we'll see whether they're all successful and that works out in the end. But it's been good. So they all have a set of goals in our evaluation system that I help work with them on. And they're moving forward towards achieving those goals. So I feel good about goal number 1. Goal number 2 is student learning goal, and that's providing support to elementary curriculum director and principals around the implementation of benchmark. I talked a little bit about that in the district improvement plan, so I won't spend too much time on it. The one thing that I feel like I have not been able to do as much as I want is spend time with the elementary curriculum director in classrooms, and then classrooms with principals, but not necessarily with Dr. Mara. So that's my focus for the spring, because she has a much more really honed in understanding of the implementation. So spending time with her is going to be time well spent for me as I continue to support the implementation. The one goal that I feel like I am unfortunately behind on, but it's not too late, we've still got time to go. This is the one around, looking into the potential of a state-approved CTE program, Chapter 74 program at Hudson High School. So my conversation so far have just been informal. I've gathered some info from Desi's website just to sort of get a sense of what the lift is to do this. Really, I need to now, buckle down and get this working group together this spring with folks from the high school and get an actual contact going with Desi. So feeling like I'm a little behind on this one, and we'll make that a focus going forward. District improvement goal, which is goal number 4, talks about our PR. So we are in our 2nd year of working with Leah Owen, who owns a local marketing firm here in Hudson. Leah is a graduate of Hudson High School, so we're happy to engage with her. She's quite excellent. If you're at an event, you may see Leah there. And in addition to that, we put together a PR team, and this is a few administrators and then a bunch of teachers that are, again, volunteering their time to meet. We were meeting monthly in the fall, and then we kind of trailed off a little in the winter. Now we're taking things back off. But not only have we sort of tried to streamline and improve our social media presence and use, and Leah's helped us with that. We now have an easy-to-use QR code that we're sharing with all staff, that they can snap it on their phone and just get to a form and push out a photo or a blurb about something that's happening in their classroom or their school. That Leah has access to that, she can push that out as well. This team was really instrumental in the glossy that I talked about earlier in designing that and getting that out. Also really helpful around organizing Hawk Night, which I also want to mention, we had a lot of educators that volunteered to be there that night, which is great to see and really appreciated that they gave up that evening to be there for that. So the work that's happening here is great. We've had a presence at Celebrate Hudson in September, and then again at RecFest in October, where we had students and staff, and we had a table with a tent and a banner and a wheel to spin and get a prize or a candy or something like that, just to sort of show folks that we're here and here's what we have to offer, and just engage positively with the community. Looking back on that, I think the RecFest was probably the better of the two for the schools, only because that's really a family-focused community event, so a lot of Hudson kids and families coming through. Where the Celebrate Hudson Festival was awesome. I think they said it was like 8,000 people there, but many of them didn't live in town. They're just coming from Hudson, and so they'll spin the wheel and win a free Rubik's Cube, but they're not coming to school here. So, we'll have to refocus whether or not that's a good use of a Saturday, or if we should really focus more efforts on the RecFest. But we had more kid-friendly activities, some coloring, and get some athletes there that were in the championship trophy and those kinds of things. So. Yeah, so feeling good about how that's coming along well. And then my 5th goal is around the space needs study, which I've been updating you on as we've gone along. We held our first meeting with LBA, that's the architects, last Thursday. Chris attended to represent the school committee. That was a good meeting, a lot of good conversation. I'm really impressed with LBA. They've been very communicative with us. We have an email in our inboxes, Dan and I, and Dave Russo as well today, asking for a bunch of information just so that they can really give us a really comprehensive report at the end. Those meetings, by the way, I haven't mentioned, there's one a month that's about the project team that Chris will sit on. I know Marcia mentioned an interest too. Should also know that they will be here to present to the whole school committee when the project nears completion. So when they give us this, report that gives multiple options, they'll come here, have a conversation with the school committee about those different options. We dove into a whole bunch of things this past week, including talking about different grade band configurations and what that might look like, and there's a lot to be done, but it's exciting, and we have enrollment numbers now coming in from NESDEC. That's a different agency that we're working with to do a deeper dive into our enrollment, because they'll look at building projects to see how many kids they would estimate would come in if there's 40 houses going in a particular development. So all good data, and looking forward to seeing how that plays.
Two of the people at the meeting were involved in the building for Quinn, so they were quite familiar with that. So it's productive because they had a lot of back information already from the Quinn project.
So sorry to whip through, but I think we'll leave you time for questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a quick thought that for the first goal around district improvement and supporting the professional development and IQ leadership across the district, the key action 7 that talks about conducting surveys at each school to gather feedback from staff about the leadership's transition impact on school climate and culture. I know that's slated for May 2026. I'm curious about being at the 6-month mark now, if potentially it makes sense to move up that survey so that we can get some feedback now. So if there are things that people are struggling with that they feel like is impacting climate and culture, we can get ahead of it and offer more support before the end of the school year.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to talk with the principals about that too, because I know it's funny you mentioned, because Tim is doing his own 3 surveys with his staff, so he's got the middle of the year data in front of him now. And we were talking about some of his questions and how we might be able to replicate those. So I may not have to do it again at Quinn, but it may be something that I could implement the other 2 schools. So let me just, I'll work with them on that.
We're able to make some progress on the Chapter 74 this year. How long will that take to implement? Meaning it'll be a couple school years.
I would think it would take at least, because you've got the whole process of standing it up, but then the budget implications and facilities adjustments, which is, I think, pretty typical to get a program like that. I mean, there are also other options that we want to explore. The department has, pathways. That may be something that's more feasible for us, but that's part of this process to determine whether we go full Chapter 74 or something less intense.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the FY27 budget development updates. Dan, are you coming up to present on that?
Yes. I'm going to pass around 2 docs. Things are changing every day with our numbers. I think I had talked about the potential of having, the tuition line swing significantly in one direction. They had done an analysis again, and now it's swung back down, which is a good thing, right? So things just, one day we think we're heading one direction, and the next day it's different. So I'm going to give you 2 documents. Should help facilitate our conversation. If you just look at the second one that's coming around, I hand them out in backwards order. Let me explain what they both are, and then we can sort of talk about them. So the one that doesn't have any color on it, this is purely a comparison of FY26 to 27 in the big categories, right? So you can see on the middle to the bottom of the sheet, the costs around personnel, general expense, which is operational, and then transportation. So just to orient you, the personnel increase from year over year is 4.2%. That may feel high, but that includes steps and lanes and everything, right? So that's a when you think of the size of an organization, it's a very reasonable increase in personnel. General expense, 5.9, and then transportation, 6.3, which is what we expected because our transportation contract is around 6%. This includes out of district transportation, so that's why it's not a clean 6% because there are additional costs.
51%.
It certainly is, yeah. And then before we get deep into that, the other sheet that has the color on it, this is an updated summary from, you recall at the budget workshop, I gave you sort of the list of everything that we were hoping to fund. Since that workshop, Dan's done the work, which is on the first sheet I showed you, to basically see this is what we got coming in for revenue. And when we compare it against what we want to do in terms of personnel, we had to make some decisions. So what you're looking at here are where our recommendations sit at this moment. This is not set in stone. We want to have a conversation about this, and if the committee feels that something should be changed or prioritized differently, then Dan and I will leave the meeting and we'll get to work on that and bring back another version for you. This just shows you the top positions there that are all in green with repurpose. That has no impact to the budget relatively. The special ed coordinator shift may have a slightly increased salary because it's more days than a teacher. So that's the only increase there. We have one reduction already, giving us with one new position new to this fiscal year. Talked about a funding change. By the way, we took the 0.3 funding change for Title III off because our Title III grant was confirmed for next year. So we don't need to move that funding over at this time. And then you can see the FTEs that we've talked about that were added post-budget in FY26. These will be the hardest ones to get, other boards to sort of wrap their heads around and not see this as us being irresponsible. These are all connected to student enrollment, whether it be just the number of students or the needs of an individual student or specific students. And then some positions on the bottom that right now are sitting unfunded for FY27 that were requested. So again, I don't know if you want to walk them through your sheet. And then...
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
What is PLA teacher at Quinn Middle School?
Portuguese language arts. Yeah, that's a dual language. Which if you think about sort of the add at Quinn, like when we were adding a DL classroom at Farley each year, we were adding a section. Mm-hmm. So it's yeah. But as Quinn goes up into 6th and 7th grade, again, we'll talk more about that at the March 3rd meeting. We'll be able to do some more repurposing at Quinn because the more DL students that arrive at Quinn, the less FTE we'll need in, say, world language, right? So we're able to, in Portuguese classes. So there's some flexibility that's going to be allowed there because of what the kids will need, so.
Yeah, so this is kind of our best projections at this point. Continue to monitor enrollment and, looking at every other, looking at our expense lines and we're going to continue analysis over the next few weeks. But right now, so this document tries to show the increase and the reasons for the increases from FY26 to 27. The top part just gives you some information about our revenue. So we are receiving the anticipated 2.5% increase plus an additional $500,000 from the override in FY27. So that gives us a total of $50,403,871 for our appropriation. Right now, I'm projecting to use 1.9 million of circuit breaker and 1.26 million of school choice in FY27. That would give us a total revenue of 53,567,000, which is 2.3 million more than FY26, and that's a 4.65% increase. So below that, will show how that 2.38 million is broken out between personnel, general expense, and transportation. So on the personnel side, we listed the positions that Ryan was just talking about, and the remainder of that 1.2 million goes towards the steps, the lanes, the cost of living increases, and any market adjustments to salaries. Brian had mentioned this, but the 6 FTEs on ABAs, a lot of those are in our preschool program, just an increase in enrollment that we just need to fill the requirements to comply with the needs of the students. Kindergarten's always tough to predict, so we did need another kindergarten teacher in FY26 that wasn't budgeted. So this shows $310,000 for those 7 positions that weren't budgeted but needed in FY26. We do think we'll be able to reduce a paraprofessional in FY27. And like Brian's sheet shows, we'll need 1 additional teacher, and we're moving $20,000 over from the HUD-TV account. So our teacher will now be 0.2 funded by HUD-TV and 0.8 funded by the general fund. So that's a total increase in personnel of 1.6 million, which is 4.2%. An average year usually is somewhere between 3 to 3.5%, so it's a little bit higher this year just because we had to add more positions than we would normally have to add after the budget was created.
Dan, can I ask a question? The first line there in the personnel increase, does that include other positions in addition to the educators and paras? Does it include the entire district?
Yep.
Market adjustment schools?
Yeah, that includes every staff member in the whole district.
Do you happen to know the number of total staff?
It's around 500.
Thanks.
Any other questions on personnel?
At a recent select board meeting, there was talk about the HUD-TV and how that funding changes. And we're before select board, we might want to make sure that we watch that segment, which I think you already have,
Yeah, I watched it.
to make sure that we are explaining it correctly, because I think that explanation was a bit fuzzy that night.
Okay, and then for general expenses, yeah, we're monitoring this. We met since the last time we talked about this at the school committee with our special education director. We're reviewing the anticipated tuitions for next year. We did have some new residential programs that we do have cost shares with another district. And I think the other one's through DCF. But we'll, when we present again on the budget, like Brian has said before, we don't, so some details we can't get into, but we can mention at least how many are cost shared and things like that. So that 172,000 increase, that's what we're estimating right now for tuitions. We are using more circuit breaker estimated in FY27, which kind of covers that increase. And then I just kind of broke out the other increases into these other sections: software, hardware, supplies, contracted services. Some of the increase on the general expenses. Brian had mentioned we have the marketing consultant that we have to add to the budget. We have an increased cost that we need to incorporate into the budget based on our trends of spending for bringing in teachers from other countries to fill our positions that we require Portuguese-speaking teachers. And facilities department, a lot of the increase just due to just trends of actual spending and inflation on the things that they're buying. Trying to add a little bit of money for construction projects that seem to be trending, always come up as the buildings get older. We like to have a little bit more funding in the facilities department. For the IT department, we have an increased need in softwares, things like cybersecurity. Those just seem to be increasing costs, and you need more levels of software each year to keep up with all that. We do have some money currently in for a few extra security cameras, the talking point software that Brian mentioned, and we're looking into artificial intelligence tools as well. Also on the tech department side, we're going to try to refurbish computer labs. So that total general expense, we're estimating at $543,000, which would be a 5.92% increase. Any questions on the general expense?
Is that a normal increase?
Yeah, it's pretty normal. I think it does fluctuate a lot, just usually more on the out-of-district tuition side. We do, I think, have a little bit more than usual increase on those things I just mentioned, some of the softwares and yeah, I think it's some years it's been around there. And for the transportation, this is kind of the percentage that we expect from year to year. The in-district contract goes up by 6% per year based on the bid that we did a few years ago. In our out-of-district transportation for the van service, we have a few companies that operate the vans for us, and those costs just seem to be going up considerably as well.
Dan, do you have or can you get an average cost per student for transportation? I know there's exceptions, but for the ordinary transportation, it would be nice, I think, to see what that average cost per student is as part of the conversation.
Sure.
And then I had another question for you. Going back up to that total cost of steps line, on a 52-week year, and I know it's not a 52-week year, that comes out to a $48 increase per person. So it's not much. So you may want to have some sort of staff like that handy, so that we can share that with people and they understand that this is not a giant number when you put it across 500 people and you take, you go up per week. It's not a lot.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll try to add some of those details. Yeah, so that's our total, which matches the total revenue increase of 4.65%. We do have one thing that we're still always in the back of our mind. In the personnel line, we carry a vacancy factor, assumed vacancy, where we just deduct from the budget. So it used to be $750,000. We lowered it to $540,000, and we are looking to continue to lower that.
That's a good idea, right?
But when we lower it, when we lower the vacancy factor, that just takes money away from being able to add staff. So it's always something we're trying to balance.
Jim, we know where we stand as far as the override money that we thought we were getting versus we are getting. We were going to go back and have that conversation.
So for fiscal year 27, it's matching up, correct? We're already starting to have fiscal year 28 discussions.
Right, yeah, since the last meeting, yeah, we did get some more feedback from the town manager, and he does anticipate having that at least the 500,000 for next year.
For 28?
For 28.
Yeah, there should be 750,000 in excess levy at the end of this fiscal year, but he's projecting that we might have 500,000.
He won't, yeah. And he had said like, he thinks at least 500, so, you know, it might as well, it might become 750. He said a lot of that will determine based on new growth figures. He usually budgets a conservative amount, but ideally that will come in higher, and when he sets the tax rate, that's kind of actually when he knows what the surplus levy will be. That will have coming in.
The assessors department is really tightening up on catching on the new growth. I had a conversation with the principal assessor recently. And they're doing a good job capturing everything.
Next year.
Yeah, and the insurance rates, they'll know the insurance increase in about 2 weeks, so that'll be more information that will help him determine how much excess levy that we'll have for FY '28.
Great, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Next, we have new business, and it's the first reading of the 2026-2027 school calendar. So, you know, the cycle, I think, is 6 years, and every few years it shifts to whether students start before September 1st or after September 1st. So this calendar looks like the first day for students is September, what?
Second.
Second. So we're shifting back to first day of student. And I think it all depends on like when Thanksgiving falls and how the calendar changes. So that then pushes us back and has the last day of school with no snow days later.
Right.
So that's what I think our projected is the 21st with no snow days.
That's correct. And I should also note, and this, we can talk more about this in executive session later, but the reason we're proposing to front load PD, you have 2 days to start the year, is to, we'll talk about it later, but provide some additional time for training around school safety and security. So that's the design. So the last time we did this would have been, I think, my first year. So that was a calendar that was approved prior to my appointment. And we were implementing a new math program at the elementary, so we front-loaded 2 PD days. So I had said to the union, I shared this with them as a courtesy, that this is not necessarily sort of the way we go in the future. We were, you know, if we have something specific that we want to use those 2 days for, that we want to have the flexibility. Again, we can have a conversation tonight, and if people feel differently, we can move that PD. It doesn't have an impact on the last day of school because it's just going to go somewhere else in the calendar. It does give us some flexibility at the beginning of the year to do some work with staff to kind of reset some of our baseline expectations around school safety and security. The other thing I'll just note is that 2 days before, so the AGA did do a survey of their membership, which is fine, it's good information for me to have as I put the others draft for you. They mentioned in their survey that they had an interest in having the 2 days up front, which makes sense. It's a very busy day for a teacher to come in. And many of our teachers are in before that, getting their rooms ready. There's no question that they're not in August. They're there doing work. But there's a lot going on in that one day, and it feels really frenetic for them. And so to have 2 days, like, you know, honestly, if we had the ability to do it all the time without losing a mid-year PD day, which can be problematic too, I think it's a good thing to give teachers 2 days to get themselves ready for kids. So that's one thing that, you know, we're doing for the purpose of safety and security training, but it's something that in general the teachers should be in support of. The other thing that they gathered some data on was around people's preferences on the day before Thanksgiving, where they had like a 70% support of no school versus half day. And then I followed suit from last year. Instead of closing on the 23rd of December, doing an early release that day. So that gives us an extra day. So, you know, certainly changing the day before Thanksgiving to a half day would move our end of the school year without snow to the 17th, which would be the day before the state holiday, Juneteenth.
That's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
I'm only one member of the committee, and I know you have the staff from teachers that say they prefer prefer the full day, but if we do make that a half day, if we do have enough snow days, it moves the last day of school up to 17th. Because when you separate to the 21st, we have snow days, we're getting pretty late in June. But that's just my opinion.
Can we go back for 1 second before we talk about that? I posted this and got a lot of feedback from people in the community. That was one of them, but it's kind of contingent upon this other piece. There were a lot of people who were wondering why we couldn't go back with the 2 professional development days that last week in August. And from what I looked into, it seems like DESE really pushes for like that Labor Day week for a start. It's better for family vacations, it's better for tourism, but it seems like it's up to the school to determine whether or not you can actually do an earlier start than the week of Labor Day. Can you help me understand, like, is there any opportunity, if we did choose to go in that direction, to have the PD days be the 24th, 25th?
Oh, I see.
Kids report back on August 26th, school ends a week earlier in June.
No, because the HA has contract language that states.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay.
But could you do the PD days,
27,
27th,
28,
28th?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Their contract language specifies that they can't start, I forget, don't quote me, but it's basically true that they can't start more than the
X
week
amount of
before
days.
Labor Day. So the earliest that they can come back contractually will be the 31st.
Mhm.
So we're unable to have them back early. I see what you're saying, because it does create sort of a weird week for kids, just 2 days. And their contract also calls for the 4th off.
I was gonna say, like-
That Friday, so that 4-day Labor Day weekend is also contractual.
I actually like that, because you are able to go away, out to sports all these
Have
years.
the kids play football, you can't, so
Right.
I need to rub
So we
it in.
haven't, since they were little, but,
Wait till they
for a
grow
lot
up.
of families, it is nice to have that 4 day.
I like the 4-day too. I think families and staff like it, but it really feels nice when you have 3 days with students, then you have a 4-day, and then a 4-day, and then a 5-day. So the 2-day week is a bit, we have done it before. Again, that's why I want to say it's only when we really feel like we need that extra day at the front, because I think a 2-day week for kids can be, that's kind of like a stumble start, right? They kind of start to get into a routine for, a couple days, and then they're off for 4. So.
It gives the teachers time to go over all their,
Yeah,
their expectations and get to know you stuff, and then when you come back in September, back in
I don't know, hit you over the head.
So does anybody have any thoughts on the
Yeah.
Thanksgiving?
That's what I was just gonna bring up.
Yeah.
I would propose a half day on the 25th, and then getting out on the 17th.
I agree with that too, given the end of the year.
Yeah.
You want us to try and gather any feedback from the community or no? Do you wanna- I don't know if you feel like,
Most people just the fact that there's a lot of people in the community, but most people agree that if we could not start school in August, for all the reasons that you just said, that last week in August, then having a half day before Thanksgiving and getting out a day earlier seemed to be the vast majority of
Like,
people's requests.
Anything to get out a day earlier.
But we do have one snow day, it's just gonna alter back. So.
Yeah, that's a gamble. Willing to take.
I've talked to a few people in the community that felt that way too, but, in support of the half day before Thanksgiving.
I'll say the only opposing view that I got was with such a focus on attendance, and we talked about the letters coming home and things like that. That is a date that historically has very high absentee rates, which counts against families who really, don't want to get those letters. But that was less of the feedback that I got.
So last year, I remember we had quite a discussion about the 23rd, 24th, and it looks like the 23rd is slotted right now as a half day. Could that be a full day?
That doesn't count.
Gain us.
That doesn't give us anything.
Yeah.
And that is an argument to people that are at 70%, because we didn't used to do a half day on the 23rd. Historically, we would do a full day on the 23rd, correct?
yeah, I think it's varied, but
If
yeah.
it would gain us something, I'd be willing to, but
That wouldn't, it's in school.
it counts as a day.
When you were principal of Hudson High, did we have a half day the day before Thanksgiving? Every year you were principal. That changed after you?
Towards the end of I think maybe last year. I was there.
Okay, so your last year was the only year, which was when the previous superintendent. So that's when that change was, so.
So again, you're not voting tonight, I'll bring it back to you for a second. That's why I'm asking if you want us to put a dipstick out to the, but if you don't want, that's okay. It's your, the school committee votes the calendar, so.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, ask, fill out survey.
And I can also share with you, I think we can pull, not to ask, but we can pull some historical, if it goes back that far, some attendance data to show what happens on that half day
I
before
would-
Thanksgiving. But
I would think the high school would have high attendance that day, but it's just a guess. Maybe, unless people are traveling.
Yeah.
The other schools, I'm not sure.
I mean, they'd be out either way, up there, no school, if they were traveling.
just, so you know, if you put a half day there, this is not serious, but then we get on the 17th, Thursday,
Mhm.
you're putting a lot of pressure on the superintendent not
I
to
know.
call on the snow days. Then that brings you back on the Monday. This one is like, we're already here on Monday, so I got a couple of snow days in me there.
Yeah, snow days might happen. What are you gonna do?
Right.
You have to sit in his office and get the phone calls in June.
Literally is tomorrow.
Another idea for that day before Thanksgiving, if we could do a half day, that would be 7th grade stop. We used to do that when I was in 8th grade.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I do, actually. I think when I was in 8th grade, we came up that day and like participated in the rally and stuff like that.
Mhm.
School camaraderie.
Or the principal teachers appreciate that.
I know, it's great.
Or at least up for
A portion.
a portion. But I'm quite sure we did that. I think we did. I know it's a hot button topic, so.
Well, that's why I'm asking if, we want to ask, so that's, I'm happy to.
It's never gonna make everybody happy. I think it's gonna help people that work because their kids are in school. It's gonna hurt people that are traveling. There's no perfect answer.
No. But I don't know if you put, I guess you'd have to look and see how many people respond. Like, is it a 50-50 split, or, if it's like 80% want the day off, and I don't know, it could be data that could help you.
Yes.
That if I do that this week, you might be able to have it ahead of the meeting, so we have the conversation on the 3rd, whatever the meeting is. That's some information.
That's
Just more information you can heard.
Yeah,
If that's something you're offering, Brian, then.
Yeah. And then what I can do is I can bring 2 versions of the calendar to the meeting on the 3rd, and talk through that, and then just vote one or the other.
Other thing to do, right?
That's fine. Quick. One question survey, that's all I have.
Would you send that just to parents or just to staff or both?
I think we already have the staff data, so I'll just use what I have from the HA, so I'll do families, yeah.
And Brian, the question would include the context of the end of the year.
Yeah, so I think we could frame the question, yes, right, so if it's a day off, our last day without snow would be this. If we had a half day, our last day without snow would be this. Just so they can. Because there's really no other, right, I'm not missing anything, there's no other implication that we want to share, because it doesn't have any other impact except on the last day of school.
I mean, if you want to talk about time on learning, you could say, you could include something of, if we don't do this, we could make the 23rd of December a full day. But I think, I liked the 23rd of December being a half day.
There was a lot of positive feedback around that, because it's a crazy date.
Was this the first year, was this the first year?
In a
we did it?
while, I don't think we've done it, it may have happened in the past, but. it's not-
I don't remember it ever before this year, but. we're on. All right.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and gather that info and then give it to
So I'll
you.
be on the lookout for an email. As a parent, respond how I feel.
We've already responded. You only respond once.
I would just say we might see more absences with the last day of school being Monday, the 21st, than we would on the half day being the 23rd.
That's true, that's true.
I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter at that point, but.
Yeah.
How many snow days have we had this year so far? Two. And our
We're
last,
room for one more.
we have room for one more.
Before we have to go
We have that
after
last.
the long
So if we have
weekend.
one more, we'll get out on Friday the what?
You know, on Thursday, the,
Oh, Thursday the 18th and then Friday.
yeah, Juneteenth is on.
That calendar has the Juneteenth being observed on the 18th as a Friday.
Yeah, I said this year. It's
Oh,
on
this
Friday,
year.
isn't it? Right.
And delays don't count because you're still in school.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we can't use that tomorrow. As an early release, so
Oh.
we can't delay.
Go to school for 1 minute, counts.
I'm gonna be one to three.
Okay, new business approval of the 2027 UNESCO Overnight International Conference for Young Scientists.
Hoping you have enough info in your packet. This is an annual trip that's been happening since before I was originally here as a principal, so.
Yeah.
And they just came back a couple weeks ago from this year's conference. It's a really amazing experience. The kids are really fortunate for that, so hopefully you have enough info.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the UNESCO trip.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Items of interest to the school committee? I have one, but I'll let everybody else go first if you have any.
Are we not doing the consent agenda?
Oh, did I miss it? Oh, yeah, I didn't. Consent agenda, approval of the 2026 Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Grant Program. Is there a
Do
motion?
you want a motion to approve
Yes.
Yes.
the Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Grant Program?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Now we have items for interest to the school committee.
I just want to put in a request. I don't know if the policy subcommittee has met yet, but I've been just receiving some concerns from families requesting clarification on our bullying policy. And I think that a review of that for students or staff or families would be timely. So I'd like to just request that.
Sure. Who's the chair of the policy? I want to say it's Chris Monsini. I think it's Chris Monsini.
I have the same thing on my items of interest.
Would it be helpful as a first step to have a presentation to the public, to the full committee about the bullying policy itself, to see if then we can generate questions that might,
Can we do that at the next meeting?
I can try. If not, we can do the second meeting in March.
But if the policy subcommittee has to meet, then we're getting later and later.
Yeah.
Could the policy subcommittee meet and review it and identify potential
Yeah.
opportunities? Then we can hear the presentation.
Yeah, it's just, I'm just cautious because a lot of it's state language, so I just want to be careful that we,
Right.
you know, and I can do some research and make sure that I have the most updated NASC model policy, so that's why I thought if we brought it first, but.
All right, so why don't
Yeah,
we do it at the next meeting? And then
we can schedule a policy meeting so that it's ready.
right after the meeting.
I also have a lot of feedback on it from people and from myself that I can pass along to the policy subcommittee, or it'll come back to public meeting anyway after review. So either way, just let me know whatever feels most helpful.
The only thing I have is on March 30th, there's something called Day on the Hill. Right?
Yep.
And, Brian and Dan are gonna go. I think our 3 student reps are gonna
I
go.
haven't asked them yet, but yes, yeah,
So I don't know yet.
that's the plan, yeah.
I am gonna be able to make it, and anybody else who wants to go. So I have to drive myself. Brian might be trying to coordinate if they have to.
I gotta figure out.
We're not sure if we can park it. Because it's big. So just look at your calendars for March 30th if you want to participate on Day on the Hill. So I got a lot of feedback from the Marlboro School Committee. They bring a lot of people. So we didn't participate last year. So last year I contacted Brian about it. to see if they yeah, you two went, but we didn't bring students. So I think it's a good thing to participate in. So if anybody's able to, and everybody's scheduled is busy. I have to drive myself because I have to get them to the doctor's appointment after. But it's it's early in the morning to
9 to noon.
noon, 12:30, there's a lunch.
I'm a tentative yes, but I'll confirm that with my other calendar.
And Brian can update us if there's gonna be a band from Hudson going in. Or
If
not.
anybody else wants to come from school committee and I can do it, I can certainly be willing to drive.
It's just, commuting to Boston these days in the mornings, you gotta give yourself 2 hours.
The only thing I was gonna say is I took the kiddos to see Mamma Mia and it was lovely. Those kids
I
are
was there
so
too.
talented and so
Yeah.
sweet, so just want to give a shout out to, they worked really hard and I love seeing the confidence on stage, so it's incredible.
Yeah, that was a nice night. I was able to attend the girls' basketball game, and then the last half was fun.
So,
It was nice.
sweet. My kids loved it. They came home
Yeah, it
with
was fun.
playing Mamma music and dancing, it was sweet.
Yeah, it was very good.
Friday night was fun. Good night out. And I think that was the fullest I've seen the auditorium in quite a few productions. So, and I think, they picked a good show that people know. And everyone can see.
Good music.
So, I don't know if you want to mention dedication. Or
Yeah, we had-
add it to my.
We had the dedication, we approved the dedication of the weight room.
Okay, sorry.
We approved the dedication of the weight room in honor of the Artwood Foundation. Artwood, so tonight that presentation, just before the boys game, that's why Brian and I were 3 minutes behind. We had that dedication just before the boys game in the gymnasium, so that was nice. And I think 90% of the Wood family was there. Like all of our kids were there, and a lot of his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So it was nice.
We'll get a shot of that on social media, just got
Yeah.
a good shot of the whole family.
Yeah, we have a nice picture of the whole family in front of the sign. Really good, really nice.
Erica just reminded me of something that came after the packet went out. So we learned on Friday that Ann Duke is accepting a principal job in Worcester at the Abby Kelly Foster Charter School. The Kelly and Foster mix. She has been with us now. I think this is her. And she's been looking for principal opportunities for a couple of years now. So this popped up as a mid-year hire. So we had a good conversation on Friday, and she, as I shouldn't be surprised if she feels badly that she's going sort of mid-year. That wasn't her plan. But I did learn that this has been in the works for a bit, and she's been working with them to try and push it as long as possible. I think they wanted her actually a lot earlier. So she'll go at the end of this month. So Jen Allard, Director of HR, Tawana Johnson and I are meeting tomorrow to strategize about, posting and all that. And I know that Ms. Johnson put out a message to families only because Ann had notified Farley staff, so she wanted to make sure that families knew that that message was out there, and did an initial ask that if there are people that are interested in participating in the process, so we're not sure yet if we're going to try and do an interim fill for the rest of the year or a permanent fill. That's what we have to talk about.
Would it make sense to do an interim for the rest of the year so you have enough time to advertise and it lines up people that would be looking to move during the summer? Or would it-
Yeah, I think that's what we have to talk about. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to fill a role in the middle of the year unless it's, we don't even know if there's interest internally. Okay, so we'll strategize tomorrow and make that plan.
Didn't we have access to a retired principal that was an interim for us
Yes.
in 2 different capacities?
Yeah, he's
Have we
working
run out
in
of-
working in another district.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we tried to get him to help us with some time over at Forest, but he's busy. But and speaking of Forest, the applications continue to roll in. I think we're at 18 or 19 as of today. So, and it closes like middle of next week. So we'll start paper screening those. I'm looking at them as they come in, just to get a sense of what the pool looks like. It's pretty good. So I feel good about the pool. I love the number of people that are very viable to interview. So yeah, it's right on par with what we were looking at like last year. We had anywhere from 20 to say, well, I think the low was maybe 15 or 16, and then the high was mid-20s for the 3 people. So
Okay, we do have a need for executive session tonight, so,
Motion to adjourn.
no, we need to do a roll call vote, so we need I'll make the motion. So I'm gonna make a motion that the school committee enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, in accordance with Purpose 4, to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security, personnel, and devices. And we need to do that by roll call vote.
You want to note that we won't be.
And we will not be returning to public session.
Second.
So it's Chris and Marcia, so we will start with, we'll just start with Tara.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. And we are entering into executive session, not to return to public session.